Welcome. I'm glad you're here to learn more about the progress build and the assessment system in Amplify Science. I'm Patty Works. This video is designed for you to pause and explore spinning Earth on the Amplify platform in certain spots. So you may want to pause the video and go ahead and open a tab now, navigating to the spinning Earth unit before we begin. This video session will focus on looking at the assessment system for spinning Earth and how it's intertwined with the progress build. It is meant to follow part 1, where we analyze the progress build for spinning Earth. We'll look at this unit today, but the process of looking at the progress build and the formative assessments will be something you'll want to do with each unit to maximize student learning and understand where students are in their meaning-making journey. This video is designed to be used after you've already explored the progress build in the video part 1 and learned about the progress build for spinning Earth. It can be used independently or with a team as a tool to deepen your understanding of the conceptual ideas and how the assessment system is designed around that. It can be used interactively with the participant pages, which are found on the FCPS Navigator First Grade Science page under Miscellaneous Resources. You may want to print those or have an electronic copy available to use during the session. However, you could just use scratch paper if you'd like. Here are our objectives for this session. By the end of the 2-part video workshop, we hope you will be able to understand the connection between the progress build, the unit phenomena, and the Amplify Science assessment system. And we hope this will deepen your understanding of how to use the Amplify Science formative and summative assessment system. In part 1 of this workshop, we saw that the progress build for spinning Earth included these levels. In level 1, students were learning that the sun is visible in the daytime and stars are visible in the nighttime. Then they went on to figuring out that facing or facing away from the sun changes what we see in the sky. In level 3, the idea was added of the Earth spinning, and then that changes what we see in the sky. And in level 4, we looked at how that pattern of night and day occurs. We found out that the Earth spins continuously to cause day and night and day and night. Well, here's our plan for the day. In orange there, you see what we'll be doing in part 2. We'll start out with an overview of the assessment system, take a look at the formative assessments, and then we'll look at where you can find the summative assessment in this unit. Then we'll reflect a little bit on our learning over the 2 sessions and close for the day. So think to yourself for a moment. How do your students show you what they know? When you see these slides with the yellow dig in graphic, you may want to pause and discuss with your team. If you're working independently today, just think for a moment and then restart the video. Well, many first grade teachers answer that they gain information on student understanding informally throughout the lessons in a unit. You may get a window into their understanding as you discuss text and their associations with print, listen to their answers in discussion, or look at their written explanations, diagrams, or models that they've drawn. I think you'll find the Amplify Science assessment system gives you actionable information on student progress in ways just like that. Here's the assessment approach. Assessments are designed to provide credible information about student understanding of science concepts or about their dexterity with practices, cross-cutting concepts, or reading comprehension strategies. Assessments are actionable by providing specific suggestions for supplementing instruction based on the information provided. And they are timely in the way they are embedded into instruction. They provide insight to teachers as they're teaching, meaning instruction can be immediately adjusted based on the data they provide. This may be different from some traditional assessment where teachers waited until the end of a chapter or a unit to find out what their students understand. Take a moment to read the types of assessment in the Amplify program here to yourself. Well, as you can see, the majority of assessments are formative, and they provide insight into student learning, helping teachers plan to adjust instruction as needed. So as a result, these formative assessments are not designed to evaluate student learning or provide a grade. There are also formal assessment opportunities in each unit, with the end of unit assessment, which is based on discussion with students rather than written responses in grades K and first grade. The assessment system is three-dimensional, so teachers formatively assess conceptual understanding of the disciplinary core ideas, as well as their work with science practices and cross-cutting concepts. There are also formative assessments of literacy skills, and those assessments include guidance, a look for telling teachers how to gather information, and now what ideas with suggestions on how to respond to assessments, often in upcoming instruction. The critical juncture assessments occur at the end of each chunk of instruction for each progress build level. Each assessment is designed to provide information about student learning progress and to give ways to tailor instruction to meet student needs. So these progress build ideas are the key understandings that the assessment system is looking for and has been built around. The pre-unit assessment is a three-dimensional assessment meant to gauge students' initial understanding and preconceptions about the science ideas in the unit, including the unit's focal cross-cutting concept. It's represented by the black line at the bottom of the screen, where we're collecting knowledge, collecting information about their knowledge before we start the unit. And then at the top of the progress build, you see a dark line that represents the end of unit assessments. The end of unit assessment is a summative three-dimensional assessment to evaluate their growth and understanding, again, about the core ideas in the unit and about their ability to explain why they think that. It also will include the focal cross-cutting concept, which is patterns in this unit. So the pre-unit assessment for Spinning Earth will help reveal to you early ideas students have and preconceptions, and then you can use those ideas and experiences to build on throughout the unit. The pre-unit assessment is done through a conversation led by the teacher to elicit their observations of the sky and initial explanations about what they think is causing the changes that they're observing between daytime and nighttime. It contains an assessment guide, and it happens in the very first lesson, lesson 1.1. Being aware of those preconceptions can really be helpful. The information in the assessment guide will really set the stage and help you recognize any misconceptions, which will be addressed through instruction in the unit. In the pre-assessment for Spinning Earth, the teacher leads a conversation to elicit student observations of the sky and to gather initial explanations about changes that can be observed in the sky during the daytime and nighttime. Slides in the PowerPoint help guide the discussion. The oral explanations students provide in this lesson serve as a pre-unit assessment for formative purposes, designed to reveal students' understanding of some of the unit's core content, both unit-specific science concepts and the cross-cutting concept of patterns prior to instruction. So let's go into the platform and look at where the slides and assessment system can be found. So here I am on the main page for Spinning Earth, and I want to go to lesson 1.1 to find the assessment guide and the slides. So I'm going to click on chapter 1, And then I'll click on lesson 1.1. And as I scroll down over here underneath the digital resources, you see that slides are available as PowerPoint and as Google Slides, and those are all editable. That will help lead your initial conversation with students about what they already know. And also underneath digital resources, you see the assessment guide that will help you interpret their explanations about about what they're seeing in the sky at that point. The assessment guide that you'll find there in digital resources includes suggestions to help connect to student experiences and ways that you can build on their prior knowledge. It will also give you some examples of ways that students might be demonstrating to you that they can apply that focal cross-cutting concept, which is patterns in this unit. It's the entry-level assessment of students' ability to make an initial explanation. And it also gives you typical preconceptions about the sun, the causes of daytime and nighttime, the moon and the stars, so you can watch out for those in discussion. Here are some preconceptions that are common. Students may think that the sun orbits the earth. They may think that daytime and nighttime are caused by the earth orbiting around the sun rather than the earth spinning. They may think that nighttime is caused by the sun getting covered up or even being turned off. They may picture that earth is round, but round and flat like a dinner plate. They may think the moon can only be seen at night, or that stars kind of shift in and out of existence or come and go. But don't worry, experiences within the unit lessons will help address these preconceptions. The critical juncture assessments are formative assessments meant to gauge students' growing understanding and preconceptions about core ideas in the unit. The critical juncture assessments occur after each level of the progress build has been taught in order to determine if students are ready for the next level of understanding or the next level of the progress build. The critical juncture assessments occur at key points near the end of the progress build level where it's important to assess their understanding. They also gauge their understanding about core science ideas in the unit and provide formative information for you. There are specific suggestions on how to tailor instruction based upon the students' information or data that you collect about them during the critical juncture assessment. So where do you find where the assessments are within the platform? Well, there are 2 unit documents that provide detailed information about the assessments: the assessment system document and the embedded formative assessment document. The assessment system contains a complete listing of all assessments in chronological order throughout the unit. The embedded formative assessment system contains the complete text for the on-the-fly assessments. So it tells you what's in the look for and now what sections, and the complete text of the critical juncture assessments with the assessing understanding and tailoring instruction sections. Okay, so when you're on that main unit page, the assessment system document is right down there. It explains the organization of assessments. It also lists the assessments and goes into an explanation of each type of assessment that's in the unit. So it will show you which DCI, science and engineering practice, and cross-cutting concept is being assessed. The embedded formative assessments explains what to look for in each assessment opportunity and then what to do about it, some instructional guidance. So you're going to see more text given and more information about those embedded formative assessments, the full text of the assessment that you would see on the platform. You'll be locating and using these documents in the next section. Now, let's use the embedded formative assessments document to look for the critical juncture assessments. You are going to want to pause the video and open up the embedded assessments document. You're going to write those in the left-hand column once you find the location of them on your participant pages. So write it under where it's located, and then remember that critical juncture 1 is assessing progress build level 1. So you may want to write in that progress build level 1 idea there under assessing what understanding. We'll talk through these assessments together in just a few minutes. So it's up to you and the amount of time you have to work with your group. You could fill in the last 2 columns during our discussion of the critical junctures, or you may want to read it and do it now as you locate them. Please restart the video when you're ready to discuss. Well, here you can see the location of the critical juncture assessments. In this unit, they roughly coincide with the end of the chapters, but sometimes that varies a bit. For more detail on the assessments, you can look at the platform lesson activity where it will tell you whether it's using an investigation notebook page or if this is something that's done during a group activity. Critical Juncture 1. This formative assessment is looking at students' understanding of 2 key ideas. Number 1, that the sun can be seen in the sky during the daytime when the sky is bright, and that stars can be seen in the sky during the nighttime when the sky is dark, and also of the idea that the sky can appear different to people in different places on Earth at the same time, like with our unit phenomena with Cy and his grandmother. The teacher observes and questions the students as they complete their notebook pages and discuss with their partner. If many students are not showing understanding of these ideas, they recommend offering additional instruction during the upcoming lesson 2.1, Activity 3, where you can take more time on a focused review and some instruction about daytime and nighttime. There are suggestions for additional instructional ideas in the Teacher Support tab in Activity 3 for details. So looking back at Progress Build Level 1, let's see what we notice. Yes, this assessment directly is going to give you some information about their understanding of that Progress Build 1 idea. Now in Lesson 1.5, under Digital Resources, you'll find a clipboard assessment tool that can be helpful recording and evaluating student understanding. There are sample questions to ask as you observe and discuss with students on the left, and the answers you're looking for in discussion are on the right. This is meant for you to use if you'd like, literally on a clipboard, as you walk around and discuss with students their understanding during Critical Juncture 1. The second Critical Juncture assessment looks at student understanding that because the Earth is round, places on part of the Earth facing the sun experience daytime, and the places on the part of the Earth facing away from the sun experience nighttime. Again, the teacher assesses this through conversation as students are completing pages in the investigation notebook. There's a clipboard assessment tool for this formative assessment, also listed in digital resources for the lesson. If students are not demonstrating evidence of understanding of key ideas, they recommend additional instruction before Lesson 3.1. The Teacher Support tab has notes with examples and details. Here are the student investigation notebook pages that they complete for Critical Juncture 2. After talking to a partner about Cy and his grandmother's observations of the sky, students mark an X to show Cy's location and an O for where they think his grandmother is. Then they answer on page 2, what ideas helped them decide where Cy and his grandmother were on Earth. Now we talked about Additional instructions being in the Teacher Support tab. Just a reminder of where you can find that tab with additional suggestions. When you're in lesson 2.4 and you've clicked the Activity 1 tab until it's darkened and has the purple line underneath it, you'll see the instructional guide. Then another set of tabs will pop up where you see the Teacher Support tab. You can click there for embedded instructions on addressing incomplete understanding before students go on into Progress Build Level 3 instruction. So if you look back at the Progress Build 2 level idea that facing away from the sun changes what we see in the sky, you can see how closely this assessment ties with this understanding. Okay, so at the end of Progress Build Level 3, in this critical juncture assessment, you'll be listening to students responding to a shared listening prompt, and that will provide an opportunity to assess understanding that daytime changes into nighttime because the Earth is spinning. The clipboard assessment tool has relevant questions and a place you can note student responses. Students should be able to explain that it changes from day to night because the place that Sod lives is at first facing the sun, but as the Earth spins, it turns to face away from the sun. If students are not showing evidence of understanding that it changes from day to night because the Earth is spinning, additional instruction is suggested in Lesson 4.3, Activity 3. In that activity, students will engage in the Mount Nose role play again. Before engaging in that activity, you can lead students through a more structured version of the activity to revisit the idea of Earth's spin, or you can use globes and a light source as a way to illustrate key ideas from the chapter. The Teacher Support tab in that activity also has more information about instructional ideas. You might consider convening a small group prior to Activity 3 in Lesson 4.3 to lead them through those activities. In Lesson 4.4, Activity 5, there's an opportunity to assess student understanding of Progress Build Level 4 as you talk with students about the final pages of their mini-book. You're looking for understanding of the idea that we see repeating daily patterns of the sun and stars because Earth spins one full time each day. There's a clipboard assessment tool with questions and a place to record notes on student responses. In general, students should be able to tell you that we see the sun in the same position again at the same time tomorrow because Earth will have spun all the way around one full time so that the place on Earth where they live will face the sun in the same direction. Students can discuss, gesture, or use their mini books to help them share their ideas. If students are not showing understanding of this pattern repeating each day, there's a specific set of directions laid out in the Taylor instruction section that uses a globe and a flashlight to reenact the day-night pattern as you work with students. Okay, so what are your key takeaways about the critical juncture assessments? Pause the video for a moment and share those with your teammates. Teachers often say they're pleased with these features. It's just part of the teaching. It's not a stop, drop, and assess. They are easily actionable and they're a part of the lesson. They match the progress build levels and give you great information, just exactly dovetailed in together. And they also provide great suggestions to improve understanding. Next, we're going to take a look at the on-the-fly assessments. They are embedded formative assessments for noting students' progress with one or more of the following: disciplinary core ideas, science and engineering practices, and cross-cutting concepts. Often these are tied with literary skills as well. Several occur at each level of the progress build. These are the most frequently occurring assessments within the Amplify program. They provide a quick check for understanding that's designed to help monitor and support student progress throughout the unit. They provide teachers with the opportunity to adjust instruction to meet student needs, and on the flies contain look for and now what evaluation guidance. The text of the on the fly assessments can be found either in that embedded formative assessment document, which you just looked at, or it can be found by clicking the hummingbird icon in the activity in which it appears. So when you are on the platform and you're in a lesson and looking at an activity with an on-the-fly assessment, you can click on the hummingbird there until it turns purple, and then down below, the little blue banner will pop up that says on-the-fly assessment. When you click on that blue banner, it will open up the text of the look for and now what guidance. So the look for section describes what evidence of understanding you're watching for in an activity. And it's often just something that you're listening for in student discussion or watching for in student writing during the lesson and regular evidence collection opportunities in the activities. Now, the now what suggestions can vary. They may vary as to when you implement them, in the moment, maybe in an upcoming lesson, or even an idea of a way to implement them outside of the lesson. And they may also vary as to how you might implement them. Maybe they'll tell you nothing's needed right now, just be aware of this and keep an eye on that student. They may tell you to provide additional instruction or support, or go back and revisit an activity. So now, using that embedded assessments document on the unit page, look for the on-the-fly assessment and see if you can find all the ones that are leading up to critical juncture 1 and list them on page 3 of your participant pages. You may want to select one and take a closer look at it, and then you can share what you saw with your teammates. You can fill in the look for and now what information now, or come back and do that later when you have more time. So please pause the video now and look for where the first on-the-fly assessments are leading up to critical juncture 1, and then rejoin when you've located those and taken a peek at them. There are 3 on-the-fly assessments leading up to the first critical juncture. Remember, they're going to help you see if students are understanding the concepts that will build towards the progress build idea level 1, that the sun is visible in the daytime and the stars are visible at nighttime. Now, pause for a moment and find and list the on-the-fly assessments that lead up to critical juncture 2. So those on-the-flies after the first critical juncture leading up to the second. There's a place to do that on page 4 of your participant pages. These will all help you see if students are developing the understanding that facing or facing away from the sun changes what we see in the sky. As you get closer to teaching these lessons, be sure to review the on-the-fly assessments to help you gauge where students are with literacy skills, practices, cross-cutting concepts, and science ideas. All right, now we're ready to pause and find the on-the-fly assessments that lead up to critical juncture 3, that progress build idea that the Earth spins. So you know the drill. We'll pause for a second and let you dig in and find those. Okay, there were 4 leading up to critical juncture 3. And then this unit is a little unusual because we've got 4 levels in the progress build here. So we also have some on-the-fly assessments to look for that are leading up to that progress build 4 level idea that the Earth spins continuously. So find those and take a peek at them. So as you can see, there are lots of opportunities to collect formative information on your students' developing understanding, and there's some great suggestions in there on what to do to help students who are needing a little boost yet to understand. The student self-assessments are opportunities for students to reflect on whether they understand or don't yet understand about the core concepts from the unit and the key ideas. These are optional activities. Last year, some teachers reported loving these as science notebook reflection prompts. There's also a place to list the location of the self-assessments in your participant pages if you'd like to do that now or later. They can be found in the assessment system document. Investigation assessments are marked with a star on the assessment system graphic. The investigation assessment is a summative 3D performance assessment to evaluate how students are doing with the science and engineering practices of planning and conducting investigations and analyzing and interpreting data, as well as their application of disciplinary core ideas and cross-cutting concepts. There's one investigation assessment for each grade level. And as you see, in first grade, it's within the light and sound unit. In lesson 4.1, the investigation assessment has students rotating through sound source stations and investigating whether or not the materials at each station are sound sources as they work to develop these progress build level ideas. Sound is added on to the end of that for their puppet show criteria. There's an assessment guide in the digital resources that will help you evaluate students' ability to collaboratively plan and carry out an investigation and to analyze data at a grade appropriate level. Now on this slide, you can see the entire assessment system and how it's built around the unit's progress bill. So again, this line down here at the bottom represents the pre-assessment that we start out with. Then within Progress Build Level 1 instruction, there are several formative assessments. There's an optional self-assessment towards the end of the chapter. And then the critical juncture assessment will help you understand whether or not students get that big idea from level 1. And then that pattern repeats. Formative assessments with on the fly, self-assessment, and you can check their progress build level 2 understanding with the critical juncture assessment, and so forth. Up here at the top, that represents the post-assessment, the summative assessment. Well, take just a second and think for a moment, what does having this quantity of assessment opportunities do for students, and what does it do for teachers? So pause the video for just a moment and talk with your teammates. The assessments work together as a system to monitor student progress across the progress build. Having so many assessments also means that teachers have a constant window into student understanding. So as such, it's likely a teacher is not going to be surprised by their classes or their individual students' performance on the critical juncture assessments or the end of unit assessment conversation. There's not just one opportunity for students to show understanding and for teachers to respond. Since assessments are situated within a build of ideas, there are multiple opportunities for students to show progress and for teachers to adjust instruction based on assessment data. So, what is a summative assessment? Summative assessments are used to measure student learning at the end of instruction, and they serve as the final evaluation of the student's understanding of the core ideas in the unit. They summatively measure student mastery of the progress build ideas. In grades 2 through 5, the end of unit assessments are written, but in kindergarten and first, it's a discussion between teacher and students. Whoops, let me go back there. It contains a rubric for analyzing student responses from the conversation. And this is typically administered in the last unit of the lesson after instruction has been completed. Well, the end of unit assessment for Spinning Earth is designed as a conversation between the teacher and students about the images in What Spins, which is a book in your unit, and data organizers from the unit. The teacher presents the student with the sequence of sky observations by the girl in What Spins, and then she asks them to explain why they happen as they do. She then presents the primary data organizers from the unit that students have helped construct, and she asks the students to identify a pattern and describe how that data helped them see the pattern. The purpose of these conversations is to gather detailed evidence of each student's three-dimensional understanding of unit-specific science concepts, the cross-cutting concept of patterns, and the practice of analyzing and interpreting data. Although the teacher's guide suggests one-on-one conversations with each student, teachers found that this could also be done with small groups of students. Mr. Helm recognizes that individual conferences might involve more time than you'll have available. And as first grade teachers, you've been listening to your students all throughout the unit as they're learning. He has confidence in you having a good idea of where your students are by the end of the unit by having small group assessment conversations. The assessment guide contains rubrics for evaluating the three dimensions and some examples of possible student responses. The assessment guide contains several pages of guidance for evaluating assessments. If you've got any questions, please feel free to contact me or Mr. Helm. A rubric that may be faster to use will likely be developed. Reflection and closing. Okay, let's think about what we've done over these 2 sessions. We were hoping that by the end of this video workshop, you'd understand the connection between the progress build, the unit phenomena, and the Amplified Science Assessment System. And we hope that it would deepen your understanding of how to use the Amplify Science formative and summative assessment system. So let's reflect for just a moment and think about some of our key takeaways from today's session. If you have teammates that you're working with, perhaps pause the video and discuss with each other what takeaways you're going to have from this session. If you're working independently, take just a few minutes to think about these 2 things on your own and cement the learning in your mind. Please be sure to contact me with any lingering questions, or if you would like help looking at the rubrics for the summative section. I'm Patty Works, and my email address is pworks@amplified.com. Thanks so much for joining us today.